Today is August 9th. My name is Leslie White. I'm the interviewer, and I'm interviewing Linda Roxana Truesdale for the Chemung County Historical Society project on our Constitution as it relates to residents of Elmira. How you doing today, Linda?
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you for making yourself available to me today.
You're welcome.
So, can you tell me about when your family first came to the Elmira area?
Let's see. I believe it was back in probably 1910, sometime around there. They were here in Corning at first. My mother's parents were here in Corning, and I believe my mother grew up here in Corning, and then they moved to Elmira when she was a teenager.
Wow.
And my father's family came. They lived in Corning also for a while. And then I think when he was in his early teens, they moved to Elmira. So
Wow.
it's been a long time. Yeah.
So they were here in Corning in 1910?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. My mother's mother
Wow.
grew up basically here in Corning.
Your mother's mother
Mother.
grew up here in Corning.
In Corning.
Do you know how she came here?
No, I don't remember. Can't remember. But I think her mother and them were always around this area, Corning area. Because Ma used to tell me stories about when they were out here and painted posts. So that's been years ago when they had farms, big farms out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So that's before the turn of the century?
I think so, yeah.
And your father's people too?
No, I think they just came up when, probably my father was a little boy when my grandmother moved to Corning. And they came up from the south. Yeah, so it's been a long time.
So they came up from the south, though, in this century or the last century?
In this century.
Mm-hmm. And they picked here.
They picked here.
Do you know why? That's really, to me, that's different.
Well, I think the reason why my mother's family picked this area was because my grandfather worked on the railroad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think that's why they picked this area. He was working for the railroad. And, what? My father's family? Well, I really don't know why. I'm not sure.
Do you know what he did on the railroad?
I can't remember. I don't know, I'd have to ask Mom. 'Cause I heard these stories years ago. I don't remember everything. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but these are good
I know,
stories.
they're interesting. They really are, because, I mean, they could tell you some stories about Corning, in this area, and some of the people, because they cleaned houses and things here in this area.
Ah. So they had an inside view.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what your grandmother did?
My grandmother did it. My mother did. Yeah. Yeah. And my father worked at, Ingersoll Rand for years.
Really? What did he do there?
What was it? Gosh, what do you call those people? I can't remember. Something with, he did something in the steel, iron work, some kind of thing like that. But he was there for years. When we were kids, I remember Daddy working in Ingersoll Rand.
What did your granddad do?
My father's father?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who he is. It was just my father's mother.
Mother.
Yeah, and her sisters.
And what did she do?
Cleaned houses and ironed for people, those kinds of things. Did day work.
Ironed.
Ironing clothes, people's clothes,
Did she
took and
sew?
ironed. Sewing, all of that.
She did clothes for them?
Yeah, she cleaned, took care of people's kids. The whole
9 yards?
Yeah.
Did she do any arts and crafts stuff, like quilts?
No, I don't think my grandmother did that.
And this is your father's
My
mother?
father's mother.
What was your father's mother's name?
Elizabeth. Elizabeth Gilliam.
Gilliam. That was your father's mother. Your father was a Gilliam?
My father was a Tiger. That was his mother's maiden name, because my mother's father, my grandmother and her husband never married. So she kept her maiden name, and my father's name was Tiger.
Oh, your grandmother's name was Gilliam.
Yeah.
Your father's mother's name was Gilliam,
Mhm.
Elizabeth Gilliam. So you're connected to the Gilliams?
Mhm. I am a Gilliam.
You're a Gilliam too.
Yeah. I thought you knew that. No? I thought you knew that.
No.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
What about your mom?
Her maiden name is Paisley.
And her first name?
Juanita.
Juanita. That's different.
J-U-A-N-I-T-A.
Yeah, Juanita.
Yeah.
And what about her mom and dad?
Her mother was Marion Walker, and her father was Elmer Paisley.
Elm.
Right. But she was raised by her stepfather, Benjamin Walker,
Uh-huh.
and he's the one that worked the railroad.
Oh. How do you spell Marianne Walker?
M-A-R-I-O-N, Marion.
Oh, Marion.
Yeah. Marion.
Okay, and then there's the Gilliams. Right? Elizabeth.
Mhm.
And your dad's name again?
Robert. Robert Lee.
Ooh,
Robert Lee Gilliam.
like the general?
Yeah.
So, did the Gilliams know the Paisleys? Did black families hang out together? I mean, what was life like?
I think what it was basically, there were a few black families. There was well, I guess the Gilliams, yeah, they knew the Paisleys, yeah, because my mother's mother and my father's mother were good friends.
Oh,
So yeah, they knew one another.
oh so
And,
they approved of their union?
I don't think they approved of how it happened. Because my mother got pregnant before they got married, so it was like a shotgun wedding. Actually, that's what it was, a shotgun wedding. My grandmother told my father that, before he went into service, that's what happened. So, but the family that was over here was, my great aunt, my grandmother's sisters, and all of them, they were over here, the Bakems
Over here
in Corning, yeah. And people used to commute back and forth from Corning to Elmira on the train. When they used to have it.
They had a train.
Yeah, yeah. They had the train system running back and forth, and people would commute on the train.
How often did the train run?
I remember when, as a kid, seeing signs down here at the railroad station in Elmira, so I think it ran quite frequently. It was back and forth all day long, so they took the train back and forth, yeah. And then earlier, when my grandmother was young, they used to have the ferry, that went into Elmira. Yeah.
Where did the ferry run?
Down Chemung River. Yeah, I'm serious. They
It
had
was
the ferry.
deep enough for a ferry?
Yeah, they had the ferry right there in Chemung River. Yeah.
Did you ever take the ferry?
No. I don't even remember ever taking the train either. I may have when I was small, but I don't remember.
When did it stop, the train and the ferry?
I don't know, probably I think it was in the 50s for the train. I think it might have been that late. As far as the ferry, I'm not sure. That was probably early, in the century. Because I remember some guy telling me stories about the ferry and how downtown Elmira used to look, and the cobblestones, sidewalks and things.
Wow.
Yeah. And this guy was like 90 years old. So, yeah.
So have you seen a lot of changes in the area?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for Corning because I just started coming to Corning since we've been living here. But Elmira, yes. All up by Jones Court, all that area where the neighborhood house is, down what we used to call the Hollow. That's the other side of Madison Avenue because it was uptown and there was the Hollow. So all of those areas, yeah, they've changed a lot. Every part of the city except the west side, I think, has changed. Yeah.
For the better? For the worse?
I don't know. I think it's for the worse. I really do, because now it's basically the housing projects, and They just crammed everybody into these little sections of town. I don't, you know. So I think it's for the worst because once they had the houses like uptown, all were the neighborhood houses. They had people had homes there. Down in the Hollow, people had homes. You know, and now
Where's the Hollow?
that's the other side of Madison Avenue. There was uptown and there was the Hollow. So it's the other side of.
Uptown in the Hollow.
Mhm.
Who called those
I
parts
don't
of the
know.
city
I mean,
that?
I heard it ever since I was a kid. People call it Uptown and Hollow. You know, and it was like certain, you know, people. The Hollow were more homeowners down there. You know, so those were quote unquote the more ritzy, you know, upper class, middle class,
Oh.
blacks. Uptown was Jones Court and the houses over on Fifth Street, Green Pastures, all
Yes.
those places. Yeah, so yeah, and then we had the Boonies that was up on the north side. Not many blacks lived up there, you know, but a few. The blacks that did live up there owned homes. Reverend McGee lived up there. We moved up there.
Hmm.
The Griffins, the Mosses. You know, there was a handful of blacks up that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, Huey's, Brookses, a lot of people. Now when you start counting them, there's quite a few.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's changed a lot, a whole lot. I miss the old Elmira.
Well, what about it do you miss?
I think because at the time people pulled together. When people were uptown, like up at Jones Court, all of those areas, it was like you could sit out there any day and everybody's parent was your parent.
Hmm.
You know, it was a close knit neighborhood. And the same with the Hollow. And I don't know, it's just like now it's gone. Most of Jones Court, they don't even have the benches out there anymore. You can't sit out in front of the projects. Um, it's just, I don't know, that unity is gone. You know, now you walk through there, you know people. There's someone's kids by the way they look because they might look like the parent or something. But you know, people just don't seem to.
It's not that connection.
No, there's no concern for the other person. Doesn't seem like, you know. And then the neighborhoods. I mean, you have more of different races together now too. You know, ethnic groups and things. At one time, uptown, you hardly saw any white people.
Hmm.
Same with the Hollow. You hardly ever saw any white people. And now with the projects and things, you have them, and I shouldn't say that, but I mean, you know, it's like they put the lower class together. You know, they just kind of threw people together.
Hmm.
So I don't like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Were you involved in any organizations involved in change, community development?
Well, I used to do 4-H, those kinds of things. But I think the
4-H,
yeah,
what else?
when we had black and white teen theater at the neighborhood house.
Black and white teen theater?
That's what it was called at the time. We really didn't have any whites, and the only whites we had was the organizers, like Mrs. Wellington and our dance instructor. You know, but as far as the participants, none of them were really.
Well, why
were
did
white.
they call it black and white?
I think they had to do that to get the money from the community chest. I'm serious. You know, that's the only way I think that we could be funded.
But why didn't they just call it teen theater?
I don't know. Well, eventually that's what it went to, and then it was the Black Repertory Theater. So, you know, we progressed as far as names were.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was the only way that they could get funding,
Hmm.
was for us to say black and white. You know, and I mean, with black neighborhood, it was out of the neighborhood house. Very few blacks came to the nave at that time.
Really?
Really? I mean, very few whites.
Whites.
Whites,
came,
yeah.
Oh, whites came in.
Not many whites came to the
Hmm.
nave at that time. You know, so, yeah. There were the Rinkers who lived in
What's
Jones
that?
Court. That's a family.
Oh, the Rinkers. I
Yeah.
thought it was a.
No.
Thought it was a group.
No, they used to live across the hall from us, third unit. There were a few white families in Jones Court, but not many. You know, and those were the ones that came to the nave. But other than that, there were very few. Very few.
So
Yeah.
what was this theater like?
I think it was interesting. I mean, it gave the kids something to do that where they could take pride in themselves. You know, 'cause we put on a lot of plays. We did a couple for we did one for the TV. We went up at the prison, up on the hill, and we did a couple of plays with the inmates where they wrote a couple of plays for us. We used to do African dance, modern jazz dance. We'd go to the old folks' home and perform for them. We had a lot of outdoor performances at the neighborhood house.
Were a lot of kids involved?
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody I grew up with, all my peers, you know.
So how did the community respond to this?
We got really good response from them. I mean, a lot of support.
Mm-hmm.
I think they always looked forward to our productions. You know, so it was really, really
How
good.
long did this last?
Ooh, let's see.
When was this? What was the date?
This was in, let's see, I was 12, I think, when we started, so 20 years ago. And it went from, I'll say, from 12 to like 17. I was about 17, 18, senior in high school when we
So it was
finished.
69 or so?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, it was great. It was really, really nice. Yeah, that's where I got my experience.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it gave somebody something to look forward to.
Were there other groups and organizations?
Yeah, we had, I think, gosh. My brothers and them used to have, they ran a place called the Coffee House right there across from Ernie Davis. That's when Lake Street used to have all these buildings and things. And they would try to, you know, have little things for the black youth. You know, they were our role models as when we were going through the Black is Beautiful stage and
Yes.
stuff. Yeah, and we had at the,
Is this the same time?
this is during the same time, yeah, during my teens.
Late 60s?
Late 60s, early 70s, all the way up until I'll say like 78, 79, things were happening. Really, really, all the way up until about then. Yeah, Coffee House kind of faded out, I'll say early 70s, but before that, from I'll say 68 up until probably 76, 77, there were things happening. People were involved. I mean, really involved. We had when they tore down the old neighborhood house, that's when things started falling apart. Because we used to have cheerleading, you know, for the girls. The guys were involved in basketball games. We would go out of town.
But who tore down the old neighborhood house?
I guess, see, when Delmar was the director there, he showed me plans of they had planned to build a really big building. It was going to have this huge gym, a pool, you know, all these kinds of things. And I think the community just voted, from what I understand, the community agreed with the tearing down of the old building and building of the new. But the new did not get the funds, I think, like it was supposed to get. So plans were cut. I mean, you know, you see what there's there now. You know, they were cut drastically. So I think when that happened, that community just seemed to just fall by the wayside. You know, I mean, there was nothing there. We used to have the Girl Scouts, all kinds of organizations at the neighborhood house. We had Saturday's Child Boutique, where we made our own dashikis and things and sold them. You know, a little business of our own. It was nice.
That's incredible.
It was great. I mean, really, right out of the old Navy. I mean, the building was old, but it was like home, you know, to a lot of people. And when they took that building, like, we couldn't use the kitchen because it was a commercial kitchen in the new building. So you couldn't have cooking classes, those kinds of things. And then the gym, you could only use that at certain hours, you know, all that kind of stuff. The old Nave had a small gym, which we turned into the psychedelic shack. You know, everybody went in and we renovated the room and painted it, you know, put all these afro-headed people and, you know, all this funkadelic kind of stuff. And we used to have roller skating there, you know, all kinds of, there was just so much to do for the youth. And I think parents were involved too, because they always had classes, ceramics classes for the adults, upholstery classes, you know, where they redid shoes and all that kind of stuff, you know,
incredible.
their purses and things. Yeah, yeah, my mother was involved in a lot of those things. But after that, you know, I think it just kind of fell apart, the neighborhood, you know. And then Section 8 came in and started moving people around the city, you know, after the flood. I think that had a lot to do with Elmira, too. You know, the flood, when that came through, people were shifted around quite a bit, so it's like...
There was no longer a center?
No, there was no nucleus anymore, you know. And then a lot of the people that were older than me went off to college, you know, because they were still high school students, and a lot of them left for school, for college and things, and never came back to the community.
Mm.
You know, and I think the people of my generation, the ones that grew up with me, by the time we got out of high school or college or whatever, things have really fallen apart, you know, in the community, and no one really went back to pick up the pieces.
Mm.
So I think that's why it is the way it is now. You know, 'cause the neighborhood is just, the black community is it's really hard to find there anymore. I mean, you see it, but people are in another world,
Mhm.
you know.
Were your parents involved in any organization?
My mother was involved in a lot of ladies' clubs, women's clubs, like I
Hmm.
said, the ceramics classes and things. My father used to go over and volunteer with the boxing because they had a boxing
Wow.
team.
Were these ladies' clubs all black ladies' clubs?
I think they were. I don't know. There might have been a couple white people.
Mhm.
You know,
Or
not
were
many.
they integrated? I just, you know.
Some of them I think were integrated, but I say for the most part, most of them were that I can remember were mostly black.
What did they do? Did they do social things or knit and sew?
Yeah, they would knit, sew, those kinds of things. Like I said, they would do upholstery
yes.
classes and things
Yes,
like
yes.
that.
But that was a part of the ladies' club? Or
Mhm.
did that? Oh.
Yeah, and see, most of, like I said, most of everything was centered around the neighborhood house. Yeah.
Mhm.
On that and that.
Mhm. What about
Everything
other
kind of
kinds of organizations?
Was that lemonade?
Oh, thank you. We were
let's
just
see.
given a glass of lemonade by Linda's daughter, Thea.
Thank you, Theo. What kind of things? Organizations. You know, a lot of things with the church, I think.
Delicious.
Church organizations. I can't remember a lot of those YPWW, things like that.
What about civic organizations or political organizations? Voting activities.
I wasn't involved in them, not until recently, past couple of years. You know, voter registration, that type of thing. But I really can't say about before then. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you very much. This concludes our interview on August 9th in Linda Roxana Truesdale's home. And this is located in an area known as, I believe, South Corning.
Town of Corning.
It's the town of Corning versus the city of Corning.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Linda.
You're welcome. Thank you.